to give you just a little bit of a heads up, a little bit of advice for traveling, since this is the busiest travel week of the year, so they say. And it comes to us from this video.
Sam!
It's okay.
Sam, we need off the movie.
Everybody right? Helper!
Sam, what the fuck is going on?
Helper up! Helper up! It's okay.
Sam!
It's okay.
Sam, we need off the movie.
Everybody right? Helper!
Sam, what the fuck is going on?
So this is definitely a reminder for you that even if the pilot turns off, even if the pilot turns off that fasten seatbelt sign, if you are seated, you really need to still keep your seatbelt fastened. This came from, this was a flight that was flying from Stockholm, Sweden to Florida. This happened several hours into the flight, by the way. This was flight 957. Passengers on this Scandinavian Airlines flight bound for Miami experienced a travel nightmare when they ran into severe turbulence. This was all the way over the Atlantic Ocean. Now, unfortunately, the passengers were hoping that they would continue to at least make it to North America and maybe divert to Canada. But as it turns out, they turned all the way around and ended up landing in Denmark. So they were in the air for many, many hours after this and ended up back in Scandinavia and not even in the airport where they left. So they left Stockholm, went back to Copenhagen, did not make it to Florida. Hopefully eventually they did. But again, a reminder, if your butt is in the seat, your seatbelt should be on. I feel bad for the poor guy that was probably in the bathroom. To Mondays with Mike. It is, gosh, let me check what day it is. It's November the 25th. Happy early Thanksgiving to you. We actually have some decent weather on the way this week, although it is going to keep us on our toes. You got to have a little bit of everything. You got to have the short sleeves, a windbreaker, and then maybe a heavy jacket nearby. Not so much of an umbrella, so that's good. But if you have family that's coming in from out of town, talk about a roller coaster. They're going to wonder if it's like this all the time, because we have hot. We're going to go from record heat to chilly air, and then maybe more near record heat, and then more chilly air. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Also, by the way, this week, coming up on Saturday, is the final day of the 2024 hurricane season. Now, it doesn't mean that there can't be some rogue storm that forms in December, but most of the time those things will be out in the Atlantic Ocean and not really impactful because the steering currents change and all that good stuff. So we may add to these numbers, but I did want to let you know that we do have the numbers in. So this is a look at the 2024 hurricane season. And I have listed on here the actual number of storms that we had and then those predicted number of storms. Now, as I always tell you at the beginning of the hurricane season, because we've been doing this forever, right? None of these numbers really matter. It only matters if you get hit. And of course, it was only the second storm of the season, Beryl, that walloped the Houston area and knocked down trees and cut off power and really wreaked havoc. So it didn't matter that we had, whether or not that was the only one, right? But when we take a look at the third column here, which is what we ended up with for the season unofficially, so far, we had 18 storms that got a name. We made it all the way up to Tropical Storm Sarah. 11 of those became hurricanes, and out of those hurricanes, 5 of those became major hurricanes, meaning a Category 3, 4, or 5. And by the way, Hurricane Beryl hit us as a strong Category 1, but in its previous existence actually was a Category 5 when it first began in the Caribbean Sea. It became the earliest Category 5 on record. In fact, it was on July 1st, it was a Category 5. So how did these numbers compare to average? Well, in an average season, we would have 14 named storms, 7 of those becoming hurricanes, and 3 of those becoming major hurricanes. So we were above average on all 3 of those numbers, as was expected. Now, CSU, that's the Colorado State forecast, and those forecasters led by Dr. Phil Klotzbach, they predicted 23 named storms, 11 hurricanes, and 5 major hurricanes. Now, what's interesting is this forecast was made in June. They have an April forecast, a June update, and then they update later on in the season as well, usually I think in August. But we're going with the June forecast here since that's basically right at the beginning of hurricane season. So if you really look at it, they nailed the number of major hurricanes and the number of hurricanes. They were, a little bit obviously over on their named storm prediction. The NOAA outlook, that's the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, which is the National Weather Service, the United States Department of Commerce. They predicted between 17 and 25 named storms. So that's a very wide range, but 18 is within that range, within between 7 and 13 names, hurricanes, and well within that range at 11, and between 4 and 7 major hurricanes. So they nailed that one as well. So while these numbers might not be as bold of a prediction as the Colorado State numbers, bottom line is both outlooks actually turned out to be pretty good, all things considered. So, you may wonder, okay, why wasn't there 23? Why did they go so high on their named storm prediction? A lot of what happened was we had a very, very active season in the Gulf of Mexico and not really that active during the main part of the season out in the central Atlantic. And I discussed that earlier. I could pull that up here real quick. This was actually the topic of an earlier episode of Mondays with Mike, where we talked about how there was this changing of the weather pattern out here in Africa. And how, let me go ahead and just see if I can turn this off. Can I just turn it off? Because it's going to be confusing if I don't do it. Here we go. So so basically in this part of the Atlantic Ocean, there was really a lack of activity. This is what we call our main development region out here, this area here. Why isn't it letting me draw here? I guess it won't let me draw maybe. But this part of the world, known as the main development region, we didn't have that much activity during the main part of the season, like during August and September, which we ordinarily refer to as the Cape Verde season. And that's usually where we see the majority of these hurricanes. Well, it turns out that there is an area over here in the Sahara that was getting an unusually high amount of rain this year. And so with that in mind, it looks like there was a separation of the desert and the more humid Atlantic air that was a little farther north this year than it usually is. And so that may have shifted the position where these tropical waves come off of the coastline. It may have shifted it a little bit to the north of where they usually come off the coastline. And that could have had an impact on a handful of storms that maybe would have formed that didn't, because of the fact that they, we had them, the main development region sort of disrupted. So I hope that makes sense. I actually, I might have those graphics available because I worked really hard on those graphics and I kind of wanted to show them off again. So here we go. This is actually what I was talking about here. And so it had to do with this part of of Africa. So when you look at these moisture levels, you have very dry air on top, and then you have very humid air on the bottom. And where those two are separated, there's a line, and that is a front. It's the African Sahara front, or the African tropical front. And so that shifted farther to the north this year. In between, during hurricane season, well, during the bulk of hurricane season, this area is known as the Intertropical Convergence Zone. And it looked like this year it shifted a little farther to the north than it normally would. So this area of this intertropical front, or African Atlantic front, or intertropical front, shifted a little farther to the north this year. So as a result, the tropical waves that moved off the coastline were farther to the north. So here's just an example. Historically, where do these major hurricanes form? Well, when we look, they're usually here. Like, you see where it says Senegal and Guinea and Cape Verde Islands? Most of the time, these things are in this general area. But this year, they were shifted a little farther, it looks like, to the north, like up here. And so since it's not in the usual area where we get major hurricane development, we missed out on some of those hurricanes out there. And even when you look at what's not necessarily major hurricanes, this is category 1 through 5, you'll find the same thing, that they form in this general area right around here, like basically from here to here is where the hurricanes typically form, or excuse me, where the tropical waves come off the coastline that develop into tropical storms and hurricanes. But if you shift this a little farther to the north, this is more of what happened this year. Like this, watch. So it was a little more like that and like that. So if you take that and just you shifted it ever so slightly to the north, then a lot of those storms that historically have become hurricanes didn't become hurricanes this year. Now, is that the exact reason? I don't 100% know. I think that's going to be the topic of some research, to why we had a why we had a lower than anticipated number of storms. So that kind of explains that. So that's your hurricane season. We got Beryl. There were, by the way, a total of 7 Gulf of Mexico landfalls of named storms. Started with Alberto and made it all the way up to, remember, Helene and Milton, hurricanes hitting Florida. So it was a heck of a year. It really was a heck of a year. So let's take a look now at travel weather. I do want to show you this. If you're traveling for the holidays, here's what we've got lined up for you. So let me show you travel for tomorrow. This is a look at possible delays, areas of possible delays. So beginning tonight, it depends if you're watching this live. Let's just call it Monday night. The only real trouble spots are going to be across parts of the West Coast. Now, as we progress in time through tonight and tomorrow, if you're flying out or if you have family flying in, on Tuesday morning, it looks like some delays are possible for Chicago. Some delays are possible for Washington, D.C., Baltimore area. And then heading into the day on Tuesday, still could be some delays for places like Detroit and Washington, D.C. And then heading out to the west, no major issues. It really isn't going to be that much of a potential trouble spot unless you're looking at the holiday itself, Thanksgiving holiday itself, which would be the chance for some lake effect snow. Now, this is a look at some projected travel weather for the day today, and I just wanted to show you that really Texas, we're the hot spot across the country. About 86 here in Houston, and when you look at temperatures across the rest of the country, we're going to be warmer than Florida. And then when I loop all the way out here, we're going to be warmer than places like Phoenix. So Houston is going to be the hot spot across the country through the day today. And then I do have a look ahead at tomorrow that I wanted to show you. And here's that forecast. It's got an old-fashioned banner on there too. So tomorrow will be much different. So we're looking at about 60s and 70s here in Houston. We're looking for 70s and 80s over in Florida with no big problems. Maybe some travel delays coming out of the Northeast with temperatures in the 50s and 60s. No real problems across the Midwest. And now out in the western U.S., if you're a skier, I've never gone skiing. I've only seen snow in Houston. But if you're a skier, there actually is some really heavy, fresh snow that's falling in the mountains out there of Colorado and Utah in particular. As far as traveling here, any travel delays coming out of Houston airports, we should not have any delays because of what we're doing here, what the weather is doing here. So about a 10% rain chance here for your Monday. No rain expected for tomorrow. Should be fine. We have a front that's returning in the form of a warm front on Wednesday. And then on Thanksgiving Day itself, about a 20% rain chance here. And that is along another front that's going to be coming in. And that front should keep temperatures on the cool side. So that's what I meant. It's going to be a topsy-turvy week. So from record-setting highs today, we're going to bounce up and down Tuesday, Wednesday, and then coming up on Thursday, Thanksgiving, no forecast is 100% certain. It looks like we're going to get a cold front coming up on Thursday. You know, does it come through at 10 a.m. or 3 p.m.? That's just too early to nail down. But what I can tell you is that we're going to start the day out most likely in the 50s and then probably stay stuck in the 60s as a front comes in. In fact, by the end of the day, it might start to feel a little bit on the blustery side because we do have some chilly air that is going to be coming into the area in the form of a north wind behind the front. So let me show you this. This is the GFS computer model. So remember, GFS, that stands for Global Forecast System, which is our American computer model. And let's click back on that. And I want to walk you through what to expect. So through the day today, since we're ahead of or to the south of that front, we're going to get nice and warm. Then the north winds shift behind the front, and heading into tomorrow morning, Tuesday morning, through the day on Tuesday, we're kind of chilly. That front stalls off the coastline and moves back to the north as a warm front. So that means we're back to the warm and humid weather coming up on Wednesday, and then we'll have another front coming through on Thursday, Thanksgiving, which should drive the temperatures back down. So the forecast for this week is talk about topsy-turvy. I mean, it really is. We'll go from records today, in fact, record-breaking for Galveston, likely getting close to records or breaking records in Houston, and then that'll be followed by a chilly night Monday night into Tuesday, a much cooler Tuesday, like 10 to 15 degrees cooler Tuesday, right back in the 80s Wednesday, and then heading into Thursday, that turkey's trying to run away. I don't know if he's been pardoned by the president yet. I shall pardon him. How about that? I will issue a pardon to this turkey. About 65 or so and becoming kind of blustery. And then for Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, it looks like it's going to be chilly as well. That Friday, of course, is the big shopping holiday. I don't know how many people still go out and shop in person since there's so many good deals online. Let's go ahead and bring it back on camera. See, I have to hit a button over here to make my screen big again. But we had some excitement this last weekend. That was the big excitement of our weekend. My brother-in-law, Reggie, got married. And he married a lady named Mary. Mary Lou's. So that was really cool. It was kind of emotional, you know, for my mother-in-law, and it was just a really neat thing to see. It was in Tomball, and it was really pretty. It's a nice place. I got to tell you, though, driving around these back roads in Tomball at night is a little bit scary. It's very dark. But it was nice to be sort of like in, you know, a little bit in the country area. It seems like it's building up, though. There's, you know, it's the suburbs, and it seems like you guys are building some new neighborhoods out there. But it was very nice. I had one beer, and that was me living life on the wild side, definitely. I also wanted to give a shout out. I mean, I doubt if he's watching, but I got a chance to meet a guy who I'm Facebook friends with who's a musician. And his name is Ryan Pinnick. So if you want to check him out on, he does have one song that's adult only, but it's a Pinnick, Ryan Pinnick Music. He's on Spotify and on TikTok and all of that stuff. But he performed with his drummer and backup singer, who's also terrific, and they entertained everybody with some great music. It's like a mixture of like some 70s, 80s, 90s music, but acoustic. with his own spin on it. So check him out. It really was very, very cool. And then we had the DJ played some stuff. And then, of course, since Mary is a U.S. citizen now, but she's originally Venezuelan, they played some Latin music. And I didn't dance, but some people really knew how to dance. So they were doing it. And then we got one Zydeco song played. So because, you know, my wife and her family are from Louisiana, and they requested that kind of music. And so my old friend Jason, Reggie's friend Jason, but, you know, I've known him forever also. And so he knows how to dance, like Zydeco dance. I don't know how to do that. So my wife was waiting, you know, for him to be able to dance with her, whatever. So they made it happen. It was cute. My girls got all dressed up and everything. So it was just a really nice thing. So congratulations to Reggie and to Mary. And as far as what's been happening around here, around work, you know, we're busy. We're just so busy. In a good way, I suppose. I don't know if you've been watching Forecasting with Friends. That is our, at 11 a.m., Monday through Friday, we do a daily weather show. And sometimes it's more serious. Sometimes it's very light. Most of the time it's very light. Like on Fridays, Allison and I reserve Fridays for Furry Friends Fridays, which is all of our animal stories. Some of them are weather related. Some of them are not. But we save our animal stories. And we have like 10 animal stories. Mostly cute stuff. Like the new hippo at the Houston Zoo. Stuff like that. So I hope you'll tune in for that. Otherwise, let's see. I was going to bring you some other stuff. Oh, I have a video that I was going to show you. I have a few videos that I'm going to dub in right now before we wrap things up. But I'll tell you that I hope to be taking a trip to Florida soon to see my mom and my brother. You know, I always give them shout-outs here at the end of Mondays with Mike. So I hope to see you guys really soon. I might be able to see my cousin also, Tommy, who's down from Pennsylvania. So hopefully I'll have a chance to do that as well. I hope you all have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy your friends and family. Of course, enjoy football here on Fox 26. We do have, I believe, the Cowboys game at 3 p.m. So it's like a whole day of football. And I'm not even going to talk about the Texans and what happened this past Sunday. We're not going to go there. We're going to win the division. So anyway, thanks so much for joining me, and happy Thanksgiving.
Sam?
It's okay.
Sam, we need off.
Everybody all right? Helper.
Sam, what the fuck is going on?
Helper up. Helper up. It's okay.
Sam?
It's okay.
Sam, we need off.
Everybody all right? Helper.